Traditional owners in WA's remote East Kimberley say they will not accept the return of the rehabilitated Argyle diamond mine site unless its restoration meets higher standards. Traditional owners say they have significant concerns for how forever chemicals have contaminated the land and its waterways. Dowell is the chair of Galganium Limited, the group managing relations between traditional owners and Rio Tinto, and she joins us now from Warman community in WA, which is just 30 minutes from the mine site. Dowell, welcome. So the mine ceased production back in 2020. You've been talking to Rio over several years about how you want the land returned. What are your minimum requirements to make it acceptable?
Thanks, Joe. So I've been on the board of Galganium since 2017, and certainly in that time we have raised a number of concerns, specifically in relation to the level of contamination across the mining area. We have highlighted and reported these risks and the inherent liability that comes with those risks to both the state government and to Rio Tinto in hopes that they would adjust the way that the mine is being closed, their completion criteria, and the level of risk and liability that is currently being created in perpetuity for traditional owners to inherit.
And so up until now, what has Rio been saying about what the land is going to look like and the quality of it and the water before it hands it back?
Unfortunately, Joe, for listeners who aren't familiar, the Argyle lease and that agreement comes under what is known as a state agreement, which means that traditional owners are not a party to that agreement. We have been working tirelessly with global independent technical experts to highlight to Rio Tinto and to the state regulator that the current landform designs, what is currently planned for monitoring and maintenance, is not acceptable. We are concerned about the levels of contaminants. We have highlighted the changes that we would like to see in a report to the Premier and to his respective departments. And our hope is that by addressing PFAS, along with the levels of selenium that are present in the fish and the water, we are hoping that we can see some change this year to the mine closure strategy, to the completion criteria, and to the mine closure plan that is expected to be submitted later this year. The past versions of the mine closure plan submitted by Rio Tinto to the state have not been supported by traditional owners or Galganium.
And I understand there have been some discussions today. What can you tell us about any developments there have been today?
In terms of where we are today and what lay ahead for this year, we have reached out to the Premier. We've also reached out to the relevant ministers, i.e. the Minister for Environment, to highlight that the risks and liabilities being created, not managed effectively or responsibly, are ultimately going to become the risk and liability for the state. Although we are not and do not have a decision in the process, we are really concerned that what we're being handed by the company and the state are going to require ongoing maintenance and monitoring in perpetuity, not just from an open lake or pit lake perspective, but also understanding how the water flows and how the biodiversity of that country is going to be effective for generations to come.
What do you make of Rio saying it's committed to delivering a safe, stable and culturally respectful closure while monitoring and managing long-term environmental impacts?
I say that I'll believe it when I see it. I have personally looked at multiple versions of Rio Tinto's mine closure plans since 2017, and the changes that we are requesting are to get Rio to a minimum standard of what is globally and nationally expected. There are changes and consistently regulatory guidelines are being reviewed. At this point, I should highlight that the WA state government last year did update their mine closure guidelines, but it's a vast chasm between what is expected in terms of a safe piece of country, a stable and self-sustaining ecosystem. And culturally, we haven't touched on this, but of course we have concerns that have been raised directly with the state and Rio. Our concerns fundamentally relate to the environmental mismanagement, the potential and probability of failure of the tailings dam, and that has been modelled. We are calling for transparency around the data that Rio Tinto has used to inform their closure strategy. We want changes to the data and the baselines that they have incorporated into their completion criteria. And we want to ensure that the post-mining land use is something that traditional owners will accept in the future.
Are you surprised you're not getting a more positive response from Rio, considering what happened with Duke and Gorge in WA and the controversy around that?
Unfortunately not, Joe. I think if anything, it's highlighted for traditional owners and certainly for Galgania management and our board that we have the onus of responsibility on us as a small organisation trying to influence a global conglomerate. We realise that the high level of turnover internally within Rio always sets us back, not just to the first conversation, but oftentimes we're the ones doing the educating on the history of not just the land, but the history of that site in relation to cultural heritage, breaches of the Argyle Participation Agreement, and to concerns that are going to become a really big issue for the state and the proponent if they are not dealt with adequately now. I am hopeful that with the current leadership of Rio, we will be able to align the areas where traditional owners and the company are vastly different on, but that remains to be seen. We've been here before, we've heard the rhetoric, we've heard the narrative, and in many cases, we've had promises broken before. So while I'm hopeful, I'm also realistic, and I reiterate that traditional owners are here. We are serious about proper remediation, restoration, and the return of that country in a way that upholds the environmental and natural values of country.
Yeah, we'll be really interested to keep across this over the coming year. Kia Dowell, thanks so much for talking to us from Warman in WA.
Thank you.